Sunday and time to get into the garden, and helping us get into the garden as usual is our own Bell Mel.
Bell Mel today.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I'm not normally Gromit. No, we have to come up with beautiful names for people when they come onto the show because, of course, gardening is beautiful and it's creating beauty, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And have you noticed
What?
driving around? I mean, I know we've talked about plants that are looking splendid. I mean, the petrea have been looking fantastic. The jacarandas are now coming out. Bougainvillea, we've talked about, has been amazing. But for me, this year, the roses have been particularly splendid wherever you go.
Once somebody was saying to me that throughout the drought down in Cape Town, the flowers that did the best were actually the roses,
Yep.
and I would never have thought that.
Well, we'll find out why from one of our experts, of course.
The Rose Queen,
The Rose Queen herself.
Anya Tashna. Hello, thank you for joining us on Mansfield Today.
Oh, what a pleasure. So,
Anya, now, Anya, listen, I must tell you something. Because a lot of people may not know who Anya is, but a lot of people will know who Anya's dad is. And I'm going back to the 1980s now, when my ex-mother-in-law had a huge rose garden, and they were of German descent. And every year she got so excited because Herr Ludwig was arriving to come and prune her roses. Now, that's Anya's father. Ludwig's Roses, which is probably one of the best known rose establishments in South Africa.
Now, I have to tell you that when they go and prune roses at people's houses, they do it quite nicely. And I've seen a rose pruning demo. When it's out on the farm, though, and I'm sure that Anya will bear me out on this, they just take a chainsaw and they take everything out like that. Not so, Anya.
So now
we do a little bit of pre-work.
Yeah, we've established the pedigree that Anya comes from, so people will be now going, oh, okay, now she does know about roses, because you've grown up with them, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, one of my school enrollment questions was, what's my favorite plant? And I answered, Mr. Lincoln and Just Joey. And the headmaster looked at me and said, well, what are you talking about? And my father said, those are actual varietals.
I love it.
Do it. Right, now.
Now, October, Rose Month. Why
Yeah.
are roses looking so splendid this year? I mean, from your point of view, is it because of lack of water, or people are like thinking, well, it's not raining, so we must give them more water? Why has it been so amazing this year?
Well, Gauteng has had beautiful weather. You know, often October is hot suddenly, and then they flush and sort of lose their color fast. But this October in Gauteng, you know, you've had lots of rainy breaks in between with the cooler evenings, and that makes the roses so splendid. Where I live in the Cape, that's obviously what we have all the time, are these cool nights that follow right through into December that give us these superlative shapes and colors and sizes. But apart from that, I very strongly not only believe, but I've seen it, that the rose is so energetically connected to us. And I believe that we as a humanity need the beauty and the gentleness after this trauma that we've all gone through. And that is what the plants are responding to. You know, they're really giving us what we need.
Oh, that's a good way of thinking about it.
Very interesting way of thinking about it, yes.
Well, we're very
Absolutely.
pernickety as human beings, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well, especially him. He's a petal. But, I mean, people do think that roses need a lot of work. They're very pernickety. You have to look after them. You have to feed them. You have to prune them. You have to water them. You have to do all of these things. But actually, roses, you leave them to their own devices. They're usually okay.
Well, that's the thing, you know, I think most of us will go, wow, the bougainvillea. And I mean, now this year I've been going, wow, these pin cushions in the Cape and so on. And the more I look at them, the more it's the realization that we've created a sport of roses. Let me reframe that. Men have created a sport of rose growing where you need rules and competitions and certain things, and they need to be pruned a certain way. And that's what we've done because we particularly love roses. We are forever busy with them and cutting them back and down that we actually don't allow them to grow to what they can and should be. So left to their own devices, they'll grow to bigger, stronger bushes with bigger, stronger root systems, and they'll be quite hardy and quite fine. But because we have a need to, fondle them all the time, they've got to regrow. And if you then don't give them the food and the watering that they need to regrow to that, that's when they become difficult and pernickety. But no, actually, roses are really easy to grow if you choose the right ones for the right area.
Okay, so what you're saying then is that me as a beginner rose grower, it's not actually a difficult plant to grow. It's fairly simple.
It really is fairly simple. I mean, roses adapt to all climates. I mean, one of my cut flower businesses is right here in Mozambique, where I am today. And gosh, I mean, they get nothing here. There's no fancy vigorosa here, and they're just fine. And yes, it's about choosing the right one. I wouldn't suggest to you to go choose an older one that does get disease, and even those, a lot of them, if they're big and they're strong, they outgrow their diseases if they should get them. Look at iceberg. Iceberg is not free of diseases, not at all. It gets rust, it gets black spot, but because we leave it, and it has a strong root system, it just outgrows it and flushes again and again and again. So I would say if you're a beginner, a rose is a good plant to grow. And let us guide you at Ludwig's as to what's the easiest one to plant.
Well, you're talking about the old roses and new roses, and this is one of the things that a lot of people have brought up, is the fact that with all of this interbreeding to make them more disease resistant, that they're going to be stronger roses, it's been done at the expense of scent a lot of the time. And I mean, you were talking about Just Joey, which has the most glorious scent. I have Duftwolke at home, and I mean, when I'd said that earlier to Jeremy, he's like looking at me going, "Are you daft?"
Yeah.
No, not Duftwolke, just soft clouds. I mean, and the scent of those roses is just unbelievable. But how does that come about that suddenly the scent disappears when you're breeding them to be stronger?
Well, statistically, we disagree. If you look at if we compare the numbers of the old garden roses and to modern roses today, we have a lot more fragrant roses now than we've ever had, and the fragrances are quite strong. The thing is, again, that one of our longest lasting memories is fragrance. So like a rose like Double Delight, even though I'd sometimes like to phase it out because it's not the healthiest variety, that's what people remember. My granny grew Double Delight. So that fragrance has to be Double Delight. Don't throw in another spice now. Then it confuses things. But the truth is that modern rose genetics, actually, we're finding far more perfumed roses than ever before. And it's simply selection. Roses are a bit like fashion. Fashions come and change and come again and so on. And it's really been just the selection of varietals. There was a time period where it was just red roses that were in fashion. Mr. Lincoln, Oklahoma, Papa Mayan, so these, and Peace, those were the varieties that sort of came at a certain epoch. And now we're choosing something quite different again. And what I'm finding is, again, with the times that we're going now, a lot of people are choosing yellow, and it's almost a subconscious choice. But I think it's a pick me up, happy kind of thing. But of course, as breeders, now we select for fragrance and disease resistance, etc., etc. But fragrance is now top of the list for fashion choice, if you want. So, yeah.
Okay, so now when you talk about colors, I mean, I often see, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, Jeremy, with people, well, there is a whole group, Ludwig's Rose Growers group on Facebook, by the way, and he doesn't do a lot of these things, especially as like he's not a gardener. But you see these pictures of people putting up these black roses and these blue roses, and then people are going, oh, I want one of those. And, you know, so my comment is always, you want a black rose? Well, take a white rose and put it in a pot of ink, because that's about the only way you're going to get one. Is there such a thing as a black rose or a blue rose?
No. In the roses, in the genetic pool of roses, we do not have the genome for black nor blue. But they are trying, and many in China, they are trying. They're taking the genes of the pansy and trying to insert it into the rose. All the blues that I've seen, though, are still lilac-y. And believe me, I'm trying to, because if I get that blue or black rose, I know I'll be a billionaire. But no.
She's a breeder, by the way. She actually creates roses. And I think one of the first roses that I fell in love with was the University of Pretoria, which was one of yours that you created, isn't it, Anya?
Yeah, it's part of the Ludwig's pool, yes. Yeah, what a fabulous, fabulous rose. I think there we can really talk about weird colors and spices and so on.
It's got the most glorious scent. Oh, it's amazing.
Anya, tell us about this new, I don't know, what is
Cosmofolia. You've got a whole new thing that you've put up in social media.
What the hell is Cosmofolia?
Cosmofolia. Cosmofolia, so it comes from cosmos and man, so being the feminine, and then, of course, folia, mainly roses. And what we're doing is we're changing the cut flower industry just a tad. So we're relying on, if a customer places an order online, they don't know whether they're going to get pink or yellow or orange or whatever roses or flowers that are in at the moment. But we're finding that through divine synchronicity, the right customer is receiving the right color or right rose, which helps along with their happiness and healing process. And we're finding people are absolutely loving the surprise.
It's a fascinating concept.
Yeah. Color and scent. I mean, those are two things that can change your mood immediately.
Oh, absolutely.
That's why, I mean, you've got to have, they always say that a woman needs a rose and a man needs a palm tree. I think men could do a lot more with roses as well, quite frankly. I walk out my house, and after shoving my face into my star jasmine bush, which is looking phenomenal at the moment, I immediately go to my Duftwolke, and it just changes the way I think about everything as well. I know it sounds esoteric, but it's true.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just having visions of you walking out in the early morning, sticking your face into a nose and being stung on the nose by a bee.
No, please don't let that happen. No, that's not. No.
That's it.
That's it. Well,
that's all we've got time for, actually.
I just want to know one more thing.
Yes.
When are we supposed to prune? I know the big pruning always happens the end of July, beginning of August, but what about the light pruning? Is that kind of around about November time? Once you've had the first flush of flowers, apart from deadheading, when should you do a light pruning?
No, that would be in Gauteng. You would do sort of a summer pruning here by late January. You'll do a bit of a cleaning up. And then pruning in Gauteng is also usually end of July. Here in the Cape, more towards August. And then you asked me, I think we're also changing our style a little bit. You can hack your roses down, as we have in the past, and it really works well if you're going to fertilize and water them as much as you need. But I'm finding we are all doing a bit more of a gentle pruning, especially with the late pruning. What's very nice about late pruning is that the plant is already guiding you where you should be cleaning it up. So in some parts of the plant, it will already be killing off stems. Then you know, it doesn't want this one. Let's cut that out. Let's prune it out. So we're working more with the plant than actually controlling the plant. Interesting little concept there.
Yeah,
Well,
very, very interesting.
We always say
It's-
talk to the trees.
Yeah.
It makes trees much happier. I'm sure it'll do the same
As,
for
as opposed to you've got to create this internal bowl in a rose. It's always got to have its bowl. You know what I mean?
a vase shape, yeah.
Yeah, rather let the plant grow on its own. I can't believe I'm getting so bloody esoteric here.
But this is the thing, you have to actually let plants guide you. You know what your life will be, but especially men with their formal gardens and everything has to be clipped and neat and tidy and everything. You know what? Let chaos theory come into it for just a little bit, okay?
Thanks, Chaos. It's been nice having you on the show once again. Anya, thank you very much for your time. It was lovely to talk to you.
Thanks, Anya. Enjoy Mozambique. And we'll
Thank
catch up with
you.
you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
And cherry bye to you. If you enjoyed the show, then press the subscribe button. And Mel, we'll see you next week.
You will indeed. Everybody get out into the garden and go and enjoy yourself out there.
Bye-bye. Until next time.